Here with Jason Bartlett, state rep from Bethel, Democrat, African-American, light-skinned African-American. Your thoughts, very politically aligned here, your thoughts.
First time I've been introduced as a light-skinned African-American.
But with no dialect, like I hear so far. So what were your thoughts? I mean, first of all, quick question. Was Harry Reid right in what he said? And two, was it racist?
I'm not sure that he was right, per se. I think that what he was trying to say was that, in his eyes, Obama had the right pedigree. And I think that for some white folks, they need to have a sense of comfort. And we've had two others run recently, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton. They didn't give the kind of confidence, I think, to the middle America. The agenda was a little too urban, a little too angry. And Obama was very deliberate in terms of how he was going to conduct his race. And he was going to speak immediately to middle America, and he was going to assume that middle America and white Americans were going to support him. And his pedigree is that growing up, some would say, well, I've seen African Americans say, well, he's not black or he's not black enough, and we saw videos of that throughout the campaign. But quite frankly, at a very African-American experience. He was a single mom, raised by grandparents, very difficult upbringing and childhood. But the difference and the transformative part about Obama was getting an education.
But let's talk straight.
And that's what he embraced, and that's really, I think, what Reid was trying to say.
If we're in the barbershop, we've heard these conversations that for average white Americans, and again, it's a stereotype and a blanket statement, isn't the fact that it is more palatable. If you're going to have a guy running for president who's an African American, isn't it fair to say that for the average white American, it is more palatable to have someone who is light-skinned, has a Ivy League background, someone who maybe is less threatening, who they can connect with? Is it an unfair perception for Harry Reid or anyone to say? Because let's be honest, black folks have said that.
Well, I just have a hard time with that because I am light-skinned. So, I reject that, and I get aggravated when African Americans have that perception. I think that we can go to the professor up at Harvard there, and
Skip Gates,
right? And so he gets arrested in his own house, and I think that that's pretty typical. I think you could be an African American and be light-skinned and be profiled as Hispanic, of which I am all the time. So in my area of Connecticut, if the police decide to profile, it's not necessarily about, oh, this one's dark or this one's light. This one is different. And so some people have a problem with that. So, I'm just not willing to accept that.
All right, well,
because there's too many of us, regardless of where you are socioeconomically, where you live, that you're going to experience racism. That has been our history, and so I just don't buy it.
Here's how the president responded to the whole furor over this.
This is a good man who has always been on the right side of history. For him to have used some inartful language in trying to praise me, and for people to try to make hay out of that, makes absolutely no sense.
Now, it seems like white conservatives are more up in arms than African Americans. They're saying, wait a second, back when Trent Lott praised Strom Thurmond, people went crazy, he lost his position. What's goose for the gander? What's the difference here from what you're seeing between Harry Reid and Trent Lott?
Well, the difference is that Harry Reid was supporting Obama and was one of his big supporters and helped make him the President of the United States.
People have forgotten that part, right?
Yeah. And the difference is that Trent Lott was speaking, I think, towards policy, which was racist in its nature, segregation, obtaining Jim Crow laws. So he was saying, well, there's a problem in our country, and we're not sure what that problem is. He never did identify that, but there is this problem over here, and if we had segregation, those problems wouldn't be manifested in today's world. And so that speaking to the policy of the segregationists and the Jim Crow and not having an understanding of, you know, where we've come. I think that was his innate problem.
Mm-hmm.
I think Reed, and you said yourself that you agreed with him, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Reed was expressing the fact that how do we make white people comfortable voting for an African American? I mean, it is historic. I mean, we're already starting to forget the history of this and the history of the country. And what I think he wanted to say was he has the pedigree, he has the ability to transcend.
As Obama said, he didn't say it in the most artful way. The term Negro also brings back, harkens back in the era of Trent Lott and Strom Thurmond. So I think
we could get but we could get kind of PC. You know, I defended Hillary during the campaign, and you know they were throwing racist labels at some of the Clinton people, and I think that we can get a little PC about, you know, these different words. You know, when I was growing up, I think the NAACP still uses the word colored, okay, in their thing. When I was growing up,
but that also implies people of colors, not just for you know, black people. They use color to imply the big tent.
The origin of that, I don't think, was people of. I mean, now we've transformed the word into meaning everybody, but I'm not so sure that when the name was.
I'll debate you that later. We don't have time now. I think it was, but go ahead. But your point being that words can, depending on how, it's all relative, right, to how it's being used. Let's segue real quick to local politics. A lot of stuff going on. Jody Rell, out. Dick Blumenthal, moving from AG to senator. Blumenthal, I'm sorry, Blumenthal, Rell, and Dodd, right? Icons in Connecticut politics who are now moving and shifting. What's it mean to you? What are you hearing from your sources inside the Capitol?
Well, I think everybody's very happy that Blumenthal, I mean, he's going to be embraced. His ability to get independents and Republicans to come onto the Democratic line is something we're all excited about. There's some excitement out there for the Attorney General taking that seat. Everything else,
10 seconds.
Everything else is very fluid. I think that we may have a historic election with the first Latino getting on as a constitutional officer. Gerald Garcia, who's running for Secretary of the State. Susan, I think, and Jepsen may have an interesting fight. I think Lamont is going to play outside the system. And the question is, Dan Malloy gets a nomination. Does Lamont find a way to work something out, or does he primary? And who's going to open up the paychecks? Because even Susan now, Beiswitz has opted out of campaign finance. So it's very fluid.
Which means we have to have you back on when things get rolling, all right? Because that way...
After Mr. Keating tells us all.
That's right. Chris Keating is up next. We're here with Jason Bartlett, state rep from Bethel.